modelers, Darren here, and I'm back with episode 2 of the Monogram 124 scale Miller Buick NASCAR build. If you were here for episode 1 and you've come back, thanks for stopping back by. I appreciate you. And if you're just stopping by for the first time, welcome. Hope you like what you see. And if you do, please, I ask that you hit the subscribe button and come on back and join us as we go through the build of this number 12 Miller Buick. I think it's going to be a good time. Before we get started, I want to do just a couple things. First thing I want to do is I want to say thanks to Rob Spires. He graciously hooked me up with a seat. I was looking for a seat that I could add to this car. I didn't really like the bench seat. Now, so everybody knows, I'm not building the Donnie Allison 88 Daytona winner. I believe it was 88. He won the Daytona 500 in. This is a picture of him sitting next to that car. There's going to be some differences. Here is a picture of the car that I'm actually modeling. Note the yellow tires, and 2, note the seat in the window. Okay, it's not completely accurate. I like the way this car looks. It's my first trip back into NASCAR building, and this is the one that I wanted to build. So that said, I was looking for a seat that was a little bit more of the Butler style seat, and Rob hooked me up with this one, sent it to me, and as you can see, I've already got my driver sitting here. I got to make some modifications to it, but that's coming. Rob, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Second thing is, I guess everybody's probably already heard, is Texas and the IPMS Nationals is canceled. I'm a little bit bummed about that, being that it was 12 miles from home, but it is what it is. The silver lining moment out of this is that actually there's 2. It gives me, take this money and save it for Vegas. Of course, more money in Vegas is always a good thing, and gives us a little bit more time to more builds for more stuff in Vegas. And they have taken Texas and added it into the 2023 show. So it will be now, I believe, Vegas in 21, Omaha 22, and then now San Marcos in 23. So it will be back. Is what it is. So as for episode 2, what are we going to do? Well, I've got some notes here. In this episode, we're going to talk about roll cage assembly and some of the things that I've done there. We're going to look at the firewall box up front and how I tackle the seams with my sprue goo. Talk a little bit about decals and paint, and just an overall strategy on how we're going to put this chassis together. So I'll quit my yapping. There's quite a bit of yapping in the video itself, a lot more talking than action, but trying to explain where my mind is and where I'm going with this. So that said, let's go ahead and get on with the episode. So we are back, and as you can see, I've got everything laid out, and I finally got in the mail from Model Car World my new paints. According to their guide, we have the 2006, and that is the Placer Gold, and 2035 Torch Flame Red. That is what's called for this particular car, and I have never shot this before. I'm really looking forward to it. They say it's ready to shoot right out of the airbrush, or right out of the bottle, and put it in airbrush. So that's coming up. Now I want to note that I am not sponsored by these guys. I bought this all out of my own money. But that said, they're Model Car World. My information's in the description below, my contact information. So let me know if you want to talk about sponsorship. We also got in the mail from Mike's Decals the Power Slide Miller High Life decal set. These are really nice, printed by Cartograph. I'll pull them out and take a look at them. They are really good looking decals. I did use a set of Power Slide decals for another project that I did, and I was really impressed with them. So I'm looking forward to looking forward to using these. So that's in there. Also got another set for a future build, which I will bring to this channel as well. And oh, that's a teaser. So what I'm going to do is, you can see I've got everything laid out, and now that I've got my paints, I can go ahead and get some of this stuff primed. I really want to get the chassis all primed and painted so I can start test fitting the motor, which is, as y'all have all seen, is complete. I did start sanding the bottom of this. You can see here on the overhead camera. Started sanding and rescribing down here. We'll get that painted so that kind of blends in better. I did think about plumbing this with wires, plug wires and such, but I really want to stick to the out-of-the-box theme on this, so this is going to be about it. And just getting another my first NASCAR build out of my system in a lot of years, so we're going to do it right out of the box. So what I'm going to do is, oh, I want to show this to you too. So I've started with this roll cage, and I'm going to cover this in another segment here in just a little bit, but up on the front I've started doing some sanding up here and some filling of gaps with some card, plastic card, and some sprue goo, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. As you see, this side over here hasn't been sanded yet. This side I've started working on. So I've got the dashboard in place, had some sink marks, took care of those, and just checking the fitment in the lineup because I'm going to have to fill some seams in here as well. But that's coming along really, really nice. I've got all of the mold lines taken off. They're all sanded smooth, and everything's fitting very nicely. I was test fitting the top part here earlier. So that's coming up a little bit later. But right now, it's about priming. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this, and I'm going to use my Mr. Surfacer 1500 white. I love the way this stuff shoots. I mix it 50% thinner to 50% Mr. Color leveling thinner, and absolutely the best primers I've ever used. And this is going to work very well with these paints, being that they recommend lacquer based primers, and with this leveling thinner, and it just levels out really smooth. So this is going to work great. So what I want to do is go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff primed up. I'll come back, I'll show you what it's done and how the finish looks, and then we're going to start looking at laying down some color on some of these parts so that we can get this chassis put together. So stay tuned and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, everything is now white, and got it in primer. It's actually been a day and a half. I've kind of let this sit and cure. So, you know, we all know that one of the big advantages of priming is, of course, paint adhesion, surface preparation, and all that fine stuff. One of the other big benefits of priming is the fact that it shows all of your flaws that you may have missed. And you know, I spent a lot of time going through, as I told y'all in the earlier segment, of trying to eliminate mold lines and ejector pin marks. Well, your primer shows all that you shall miss, and this is a prime example. And there's other spots on that I need to clean up, but this is one of the biggest ones. You look at this rear housing, bell housing, rear end here. Let me zoom in and show you. See that mold line across the back? I thought that was completely gone, but you can see it ghosted in there. So that's going to take a little bit more work cleaning up. And not only that, but in here, it's hard to see. Here's a better one. Right here, sink mark. So I'm going to need to get that cleaned up. But these are things that you can't see on the regular plastic. You know, once you get this coat of primer on there, it just screams at you. So that is not too bad. There was also some stuff to clean up here. Some old lines across this. I'm not too worried. Like, here's an ejector pin mark. I'm not worrying too much because that's against the floor pan. But there were some on the top of these bars, and I had to clean those up, and they're good to go. And so just a couple little things there to clean up. So that's going to take me on. Let's move on here real quick. I want to, I'll tackle this here in a little bit, but there's something else I want to show you. I want to move on to the roll cage, and I'm going to need that piece. Let me set this off. And I am going to put this blue board down. It makes just a little bit easier for you guys to see, I think. And we're going to bring in, voila, the roll cage. So, all you guys out there that built these NASCAR kits know, you know, this area up in here, this box, the firewall dash, all that can be a booger. And I remember that from when I was a kid. And you know, you got 1, 2, 3, there's 4 pieces that make up this forward box, and the fit is just horrible sometimes. So I actually started priming this a while ago. I was actually filming and showing something, well, thought I was filming, but anyhow, I'm here to fix it. So what I've done is, you can see on this side, I've got, let me zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. I have got that filled with my trusty old sprue goo. And that's just old sprue from other kits mixed with some Tamiya extra thin, what I had left in there. And this jar here is pretty thick, but I've used it. That was a huge gap in here. And what better to fill your gaps than with styrene, right? So that's all we did, was put liquid styrene in there and filled it. And it gets hard as a rock, and it's extremely sandable. So over here, you can see I've already done that. Now, I sprayed the primer, and here's, as a matter of fact, there's a little spot there. Let me do this. Let me get my paper towel, and I'll show you. I've got one little spot here that I was working on a while ago. Get some air going. Sorry for the compressor, but a little spot right here we're going to shoot, and this is 50/50 Mr. Color leveling thinner and my Mr. Surfacer 1500, and I'm just going to spray this little area here that I was sanding on and up here, and it'll prove my point about showing you the flaws. So there we go. Sorry about that, I kind of gooped off the camera there, spray that. But you'll see here, right down in this area, it's still real rough. Now this seam was so bad that I had to fill it with plastic card. I had to do this corner down here too. You can see some plastic card in there. But I had to do this, and then I filled it with my sprue goo, and then came back, and after I sanded it down, any pits that I might have had, I brought in my Mr. Dissolve putty and filled that in. And you can see that it's almost completely gone. I mean, it looks a lot better. There's, you know, some shadow showing in here, but I'm going to have to take my my trusty tweezers and sanding sponge and get in there and clean some of it up. But my point is that the primer has, you know, shown you where those defects are. So that needs to be cleaned up. I'm going to do that here in a minute off camera. I'm going to go ahead and start sanding this down over here, and that'll take care of 1, 2, 3 of the parts here, right? Next is going to be, how am I going to do this dash, because it's got a big ugly gap up here and across up here, which these will fill in fairly well, but this one over here is going to be atrocious, and you're going to see it under the hood. So I'm not sure yet if I'm going to assemble the dashboard, get it painted and detailed and put it in there, or if I'm going to try and do that afterwards. I don't know. Going to have to figure that out. But another piece I want to try and figure out here next is, and I told you I'm not following the instructions very well on this one. I've got this fitting really well on the chassis, and this bar here, I want to get this installed on there because I want to be able to take the roll cage off and paint it all at one piece, so I can get all the undersides, so on and so forth. So what I'm probably going to do is go ahead and dry fit this in with a little blue tack on in the trunk area, so it's not glued in there permanently. Glue the roll cage where it needs to be, and then I can pull it off in one piece. While I'm at that, all of these connection points here, when I got this top piece on, where this roll cage, you can see this gap up here, where that attaches, I'm going to use my sprue glue, just a little bit of it, fill those in, and that'll make it all look seamless. Now, you can see back here, I've already done this part and this part over here, and got that sanded in. And I'm sure once I shoot some primer, I'm going to have to touch that up again as well. So that's the plan going forward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and shoot on off camera. I'm going to start sanding my seams over here, get the sprue glue cleaned up, fix this over here, and then I'm going to give this, well, it will already be primed, but get this all primed and ready to go. And you know, I'll touch base real quick on this again. If you guys have a better way of doing this, let me know in the comments below. I am always looking for a better mousetrap. So stick with me. We're getting there. There's more to come. So I'm back, and as you can see, I've got now that bar installed, as I had said earlier. And as you see up here, I've got it all melted in with my sanded down with my sprue glue. As up here, oh, and there's some work been done up here as well. It is by no means perfect, but it is a lot better, and it's getting there. So as with this, once I prime this, I'm probably going to find that there are several areas that need to be touched up. Now, doing it this way, it has allowed me to be able to take this off, and that's really going to help me when it comes to painting and priming. And of course, I'm going to put my X bars and stuff in here, my crossbars in this halo bar up here in as well after the dash is done, and I'll talk about that in a second. And that's going to allow me, if I wanted to detail any wires or stuff or cables or, you know, braided lines in here, I can do that before I put it on the chassis. It's also going to help me when I go to spray and prime, get everything even all the way around. So my plan is to get this completely assembled and then put it onto the chassis. Now, it's window net. I know I said I was going to do this out of the box, but I am considering using my window net material, cutting this out and having that open. Let me know what your thoughts of that might be below. I've never done that before, so it might be a challenge. If you've done it before, let me know down there how you went about it. So I'm really interested. So dashboard, that's where we're at this. So the dashboard, as you can see, I've got it all filled with filler, and I got to get that sanded smooth. I decided to go with my gauges from Mike's Decals, and I've also got some bezels from Detail Master. I'm going to maybe use those, I'm not real sure. These have already got a nice little ring around them, so not sure, but I know that it is going to be decals and not the kit details, because those were absolutely horrible, and we'll have more of that in the next episode. I've got my shocks started. As you can see, I've got them painted, and I'm starting to do some detail painting on them. I will get the Blistine decals put on them and a little wash and make those look nifty. So that's where we are, and I'm going to end this exciting episode at that point. In the next episode, we hope to have this all in primer, the front finished, and some detail work done on it. And according to what and considering what you guys tell me in the comments, will dictate whether or not I cut the window net open and do that. And we're also going to hopefully have the chassis finished, and some tire work. We're going to talk a little bit about tires. So I hope you guys come back. This is coming together fine. I'm having a good time, and until next time, y'all stay healthy, stay safe, and thanks a ton for tuning in. See ya.